Hi, how are you? Welcome again to the Frugal Gourmet. I want to continue our conversation about entertaining. You remember we've talked before and we've said that when you entertain, you really should relax and enjoy the thing yourself. After all, the party's for you. If there's someone neater that you know, why fine, entertain them, but I think you should see yourself as the neatest person you know. And that means that when you set things out, everything should be ready so that when the party starts, you can become a member of your own creation, instead of a viewer, which is what happens to us, particularly if you're Swedish or Norwegian. You know, my mother used to always run to the kitchen with all of her girlfriends when the party was just getting started, and they'd spend all of their time out there cooking and cleaning up. I guess that's a Scandinavian way, but I don't want you to do that. One of the ways you can avoid doing that is to celebrate the casserole, or the casserole, the old casserole. By classic definition, the casserole, no, we'd better start over because you think that I think we're talking about egg noodles with tuna fish, canned tuna fish, and I may get sick. Canned tuna fish and cream of mushroom soup with broken potato chips in the top. Do you remember that? That's not a casserole, dear. That's bad food. The term casserole simply refers to anything cooked in a pot. Who made the pots? I think, from my studies of history, the first cooking pots were probably baskets. Now, this is a terrible one because you can see the holes in it. But in the early days, a basket was woven so finely that you could put water into the basket and then throw in hot rocks. Now, when I say early days, we're talking about a long time back. We're talking about just something just south of the caveman. But we know that we learned to weave baskets before we learned to make clay pottery. So the first casserole, that is to say, anything cooked in a pot, was probably a basket, and we threw food in the basket, a little bit of water, and then put in hot rocks, and it sat and simmered for a time. You know, it still works. American Indians, there's some classic dishes, and they can make a basket so finely woven that nothing will leak out. It's a beautiful thing to see. I don't have one. This is from the florist shop. We can chuck it. Earlier casseroles would involve something such as this one from China. It's very old style, though you can still buy these. And the casserole is designed in such a way that this will sit on a charcoal fire, and the wires that hold it together don't really hold it together at all. They simply dissipate heat. And then the Chinese came up with a steamer casserole. And inside you can see that it's kind of like a donut-shaped affair, or an angel food pan. And from this tube in the center comes the steam. And you put this over a pot. Well, I have one cooking here. I'll show it to you. This is a contemporary one. Kira, K-A-I-R, Kira puts this out. It's really very beautiful. It's a large one. Nothing new. She simply redesigned the old casserole, but you see there's a tube in the center. It's like an angel food pan in heat. Got that? All right. And I have a casserole cooking in here. It doesn't matter what you put in it. The term casserole simply defines the fact that it's in a pan. You can buy them in metal. This is heavy heavy cast iron from France. You can buy them in weird shapes in porcelain, or this is a cheaper ceramic, a brown ceramic, a nice oval porcelain casserole. Or finally, you can get a very flamboyant pélion, which is this is a beautiful thing. It's very heavy. It looks like something you put on top of the stove, but of course you can't do that. These all go in the oven. With the exception of the Chinese casserole, that could take the top of the stove. All right, let's start cooking then on some casseroles that would be suitable for a buffet, something you can prepare ahead of time. The first one I want to make for you, and if you're a younger person and you start mumbling about my eggplant, you're in trouble because it's delicious. I want you to taste it first. We're going to do a lamb, Italian sausage, and eggplant casserole that I blatantly stole from Place Pigalle at the public market in Seattle. First of all, let's get a big casserole here. And this one is certainly large enough, isn't it? That's a biggie for sure. Find some room now. The only problem with showing you all these things, I have to keep moving stuff around. But then my kitchen is just like yours, and I'm always running out of room. All right, now we're set. So we'll put our casserole over here and begin with the order of construction for the lamb, sausage, and what's the other thing? The eggplant casserole. First of all, I want 2 pounds of lamb that I have already browned. Now, this is good leg of lamb, and I've browned it severely so that you seal in the juices. Don't do this lightly. Do it severely. What does severe brown mean? Well, you throw it in a very hot pot and brown it nicely. All right. So into my casserole goes the 2 pounds of lamb, already browned. Always brown things. Otherwise, you just wind up with a lousy stew, and I don't want you to do that. I now need 3/4 of a pound. I was going to say 3/4, 3/4. What's the difference? Obviously, we have more than 3/4 of a pound in here of Italian sausage. Good sausages with a lot of fennel in them. Now, you'll notice the center is not cooked. You see, that's all right. All I want to do is to brown these nicely, and these will go in the casserole now too. All right, and then we need to add 2 yellow onions that I've sauteed with some garlic. Pan fry these first. You remember how to do that. Saute means that it jumps around in the pan. You don't just let it lay there and die, for heaven's sake. You jump the pan. The pan is hot so that it doesn't just lay there and soak up fat and die on you. You don't want that. All right? That's about 3 fat onions and a few cloves of garlic to taste, at least 3. More if you wish. And that goes into our casserole as well. This is really going to pile up today. I'm going to have fun with you. And then we want to add a whole eggplant. And of all the creatures that God has made in the vegetable world, I think this one is the most beautiful. Aubergine. The color itself, I think it's a very sexy color. I think I tell you that because Patty, my wife, has a dress that is aubergine. Auberge. What, am I saying that wrong? Auberge? No, I think that's right. Anyhow, the dress certainly is right. She's just gorgeous in it. She loves that color. So do I. All right, I'm cut off the top of the eggplant, and then I'm going to slice the eggplant into big, wide slices. Put them back together again on the top here, you see? And then you can cube them very quickly, thusly. See? Watch your fingers, for heaven's sake. Turn it, and it's all cubed. None of this doing one slice at a time. Frugal means you don't have time for that fiddling around. Now we're going to pan fry all of these cubes. And let me show you what we'll arrive with here. It's very simple, if I can find it. Here we are. We've pan fried these in a bit of olive oil, sauteed them, you see, quickly browned, so that they're ready to go into the casserole now too. Don't have the heat down too low or they won't brown. They'll simply lay there and absorb oil. There's an old joke about in the Middle East about a man who, because the eggplant absorbs oil and oil and oil, it will keep absorbing olive oil for a long, long time. And the old joke is that this man was so wealthy that he didn't care how much olive oil his wife put in the eggplant. Now in the Middle East that's very funny, and I appreciate you're not laughing at all. What's the matter? Do you understand the line? Put in just a little bit of oil in your pan. Use a Silverstone pan, preferably. So otherwise, you'll get too much grease in the eggplant. It'll just keep sucking up the oil. All right, saute the entire cubed eggplant, and that will go into our casserole. The plot thickens, doesn't it? This is really just delicious. It's going to be terribly rich. You wouldn't think of a vegetable being as rich as eggplant actually is, but it's just my favorite, and I think it's the most the richest vegetable you can imagine. Then I want to add 3 ripe tomatoes, very ripe. Very ripe. Don't buy those cheap supermarket ones that aren't ripe. If you do, I've told you before, set them on a windowsill or something so that they'll have a chance to ripen before you go much farther. And we want about a ½ cup of parsley. You just throw this all into the casserole. And we want to add 2 whole bay leaves. Here they are. Wow, that's a stinky little thing. Where'd you come? That's a stinky one too. All right, 4 little bay leaves if they're little stinky things. I have a bay leaf and a tree in my front yard in Tacoma, and it grows all the year round. I'm putting in 4 little ones, or 2 big ones. In any case, we have a tree that grows all the year round. It's the most beautiful thing, and I just love it. It's a wonderful thing to have. You can grow one in most parts of the country. You want a bay laurel, but if it's severely cold, as it is in Chicago or upstate New York or Vermont, you'll have trouble growing those. But in the temperate sun belts, such as Seattle and Tacoma, we have no trouble. And you thought it rained all the time. You see? Now, salt and pepper. All right. There's enough. And you don't want to add much salt to this. You really won't need it because the flavors are very bright. And now we want 2 cups of red wine. Just pour it right in there. That was 18 glurgs. 18 glurgs or 2 cups. Got it? I counted the glurgs. It's much easier than counting the cups. I'm teasing you. All right, that will go on the burner until I heat out, bring it to a light simmer. And I have one in the oven I want you to see. You put it in the oven then for about 2 hours at 350 so that the lamb is very, very tender. The eggplant just kind of gets married to the lamb, and the tomato just gets lost in the shuffle. And then you'll have a lovely, soft, tender, let me show you. And it'll stay hot on your line. You see, you use a metal one or a good thick one, a good thick casserole, and you'll have a wonderful dish. I have one in the oven here somewhere. Here it is. It's oven somewhere. I know where the oven is. I need to put out a space for it. the front of my kitchen always winds up being a buffet anyhow, doesn't it? You know that that's what happens here after we finish each day anyway. We all eat together. And that's one of the ways that we heal anything that may have happened here in my place during the course of the day. If you've had an argument, feed him. If you've had a good time, feed him. The result is always the same. If you're happy or unhappy, feed him. You know, with some other person. Feed the person and you'll feel better. And that's what it's for. All right, here's the casserole. Ouch. Heavy. Oof. Good Lord. All right, let's get the lid off of that and take a look at it. It's very beautiful. There. The eggplant and the sausages have cooked down and simmered. The lamb is very, very tender. It's just colossal. Oh, look how tender that is. The odor. I know you're frustrated, but I can't help it. I have no way of shipping this one to your house. When I meet you across the country when they're signing books or in bookstores or something, inevitably you come by and you say you become so frustrated that you can't smell. But I haven't figured out a solution. That one, however, is colossal. That's really good. All right, let's go on to another one. Second one I want to make for you is a very brief version of the casserole. Now, the casserole is a classic dish from France that is made in a casserole. But it's called a casserole because it must contain duck and sausages and so on. But it takes a long time to make, and beans. Generally, a casserole has some kind of filler in it, either a vegetable filler or a bean filler, or if you remember the old days, a macaroni filler. Ugh. I don't like those half as much as this next one. So let's prepare a, what one is that one going into? Yes, here it is. Here we go. We're going to put this one into a big pélion. It's beautiful white porcelain. Let me set the lid down and we'll begin to cook here. I have one whole duck. Well, actually, I have a duck and a bunch of spare ribs here. I've cut up the duck. You see, just cut up all the pieces of the duck. I've saved the wings and the neck and some of the skin for soup stock that I've made. And so I've roasted the duck at about 375 for, half an hour, along with some spare ribs. And you see I've cut them up into small chunks. These are pork spare ribs. You cut them up into pieces. And these are all ready now for the pot. So we'll just throw them in. All right, now then, they'll go into our bowl right away. You've browned them in the oven first. You can pan fry these if you like, but it takes much longer. And of course, you retain much more fat. Beneath this griddle, or this grid work, what do you call it? The grid here, is a great deal of fat that is drained off of the meat. And we just don't need it. Whoops, I don't want to lose that. Oh, it would kill us all if we had that much fat in the kitchen here. We don't want that. All right, now the second step is to take a pound of white beans. I have 2 pounds here. A pound of white beans, and this is the size I'm talking about. These are little navy beans. You see how small they are? You see?